but yeah, I mean, there have been people who asked me, is the ending of episode 1 real or not, or is that a dream, or what happens, you know? And you know, you should just keep watching, you know.
We've both done terrible things in our lives, but I believe you can be the version of yourself that you want to be.
Hi, Bill. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Bill, at the end of the second season, with that tremendous final episode, I thought that season 3 will be something like Barry versus everyone or Barry versus the world. But no, it's Barry against Barry, and he's lethal, you know? So
Yeah.
that, I think it's great. And I think this idea was hidden, you know, since the first 2 seasons, and now it's there. It's clear, and it's so intense, and it's so sad at the same time. That was on purpose. You know, did you know that Barry would confront himself in that way since the beginning, or, you know, you realize that later?
Oh, that's a good question. No, I think it kind of, you know, when we started writing season 3, it was kind of like, one of the first things we thought of was, let's get rid of the acting class. And by doing that, that kind of, you know, you have an equation and you take something out of that equation, everything starts to get a little, you know, it just loosened us up in a way where we were like, oh, wow, if we don't have that, well, then do we need this or that, you know? By doing that, it kind of focused everything on the characters and kind of going like, what's the next step, you know? Like, this thing has to grow, you know, and not just be a retread of the same stuff. And in doing that, I think, and if you're being honest with it, you get to kind of what you're talking about. It gets pretty brutal and pretty sad. So yeah, definitely this season is definitely tougher, I think, than the other seasons, which is saying something. But I think it's, you know, I think it's honest, you know.
Anthony, Cristobal confronts his suegro, you know, his father-in-law, and this old man talks about the lack of mental toughness or something like that, you know, that I think he refers to this macho attitude, you know, that needs to be an alpha leader or something like that, you know. And it's something that also happens with Hank. You know, he's quite the opposite of this brutal and aggressive and irrational man, you know, but at the same time, he's the only one that tries to protect everyone, you know, and in theory, a great leader should do that. So I would like to ask you, you know, because maybe Hank is not like the brightest criminal, but he is a good leader, or at least I think that about Hank.
Absolutely. I mean, I think with, you know, I think you said it, the kind of difficulty with being a leader is essentially, you know, having the kind of strength to kind of make decisions and really, you know, follow through with them, but also factor in everyone else. And I think that Hank's strong suit is certainly taking care of everyone else. I mean, does he maybe kind of look a little bit more like it? Does he prioritize like making sandwiches for everyone and like giving them kind of, you know, like Sunny Delights and babka? Sure, yes, he does. But, you know, but I think that's the thing is you know, Hank is trying so hard to be a good leader, and he's trying so hard to navigate like a really dangerous profession with an open heart. And obviously that's going to get, you know, that's going to get him into trouble, and it certainly does. So yeah, that's what I love about the season is just how these dangerous situations start to unfold. And you really start to see Hank in really precarious situations.
Henry, you know, this season talks about second chances and how everyone deserves a new beginning, you know. It doesn't matter your past or who you are, but I think that now we understand that the second chance for Gene was Detective Moss, you know, the love of his life, or he says all the time, you know, not the acting situation or the acting classes, but being loved and love someone, you know? So I would like to know, what do you think about this? Because maybe this means that we are not going to see, not again, the narcissist but funny Jean from the first season, you know? So I would like to know, what do you think?
Well, I must say that I try to find humor. It's not always there. Bill doesn't mind. I think HBO asked him and said, could you put like another joke in? And he said, I'm not sure. And, you know, Bill and Alec are very clear about what they want. And then in that structure comes freedom. Freedom for everybody, for every designer, or the writers, the actors. So I just go, I get my ticket, I get it punched, and I get on Bill's train.
I think Fuchs is great. It's a complex character. He's evil, but I don't know. I love him. He's one of my favorite characters in this.
Well,
show.
I think he loves Barry. You know, he genuinely does. He's somebody who took care of Barry right as he came out of the war. And unfortunately, you know, you're talking about a show with a guy who has PTSD, and he's getting worse. He's getting worse. And as the seasons go on, he's getting worse. He's making bad decisions. He's seeing things in his head. So the problem with Fuchs is he can't get over the fact that Barry's not doing what he wants him to do. And that is the crux. He loves Barry, but he's not obeying what he wants to do. So we have a problem.
Just one, but that's the breaking point, because I think, as I said, that Fuchs is a great character because he can't pull the trigger, literally, but he's not afraid to destroy the life of, you know, someone, you know.
To get what he wants.
Yes.
Barry to do, yes, and it doesn't alleviate his love for Barry. He just wants to go back to the way it was, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah, because he was so, in a certain way, he was so comfortable, you know. That
Oh yeah.
Barry is like the killer, literally, and he was just ordering what to do, you know. But when arrived the second season finale, you know, I read about how losing the bond with Jean may affect Barry, but I think it's even more connected to Fuchs, you know. So I would like to know what you think about how these two characters need each other, but to destroy themselves. You know, it's like an addiction between them that I think it's get deeper and it gets darker in this season.
It's as with any people who actually love each other. It's a complex world of a love and hate, and Barry and Fuchs is a love and hate relationship. I think Fuchs loves Barry. Barry loves Kusanov, loves him, but he's not able, because of his PTSD, to make rational decisions about either of these guys, Fuchs or Barry or you know, NoHo Hank. He can't make rational decisions. But it's always been a love-hate relationship between Barry and Fuchs.
Can you handle more amazing news?
I have to be honest, and it's something that I don't feel proud of, but I used to hate Sally, you know. In the first season, she was very mean and a little selfish. And in the second season, I think it was great because we had a chance to know her outside the acting class. And we found out a lot of things about her past and why she is like that, you know. And in this new season, for the first time, she's not acting or pretending to be a strong woman. She is a strong woman. So it has been like a wild journey for this character. And her relationship with the audience, you know, the audience used to be mean with her. We used to judge her a lot. So I would like to know, what do you think about that?
Well, I think it's really fascinating, and I think it's good if you hated her season one. It means I did my job correctly. I think that it's fascinating, the sort of feelings towards Sally, because this is a show about morally dubious characters who behave badly. And I was very clear from the beginning that I didn't want Sally to be exempt from that just because she's the only female character, and I didn't want her to be the moral barometer for the show. I think that Sally there was such feeling of anger towards her because her flaws were more relatable, and I think that the men on the show, a lot of them were killing people and no one seemed to have any issue with that, but it felt more further removed. Whereas with Sally, you know, we've all met her, we've all worked with a Sally, we've all gone to school with a Sally, and I think, or maybe we have little parts of Sally in ourselves and that feels very uncomfortable. So I think that we pushed hard to show her behavior in season 1 and present her as a thing that then we could completely get underneath in season 2 and going further in season 3, where we do understand why she behaves the way she behaves. People don't behave badly for no reason. They behave badly for variety of reasons, and I think that the show is very clever in going into the backstories of these characters to fully understand and empathize with why they're making the bad decisions that they're making. I had no problem with people disliking her. In fact, I was pleased about it because I want to see unlikable women on television, complex, morally dubious women that reflects the world we live in, and not all women are, you know, the mother figure or the moral barometer. And so I was pleased to finally be on something where we're not seeing the typical girlfriend role. We're seeing somebody who's got a real darkness, and this is a dark comedy, and I wanted Sally to be part of that tone and not push her into a place of lightness just because she's the only female. I think that now that we're getting to understand her history and her past, it is more interesting and it's more fun to play. And this season, I've really tried to pay attention to how she behaves when she does get a little bit of success and power, and how does she treat people around her as that happens. Does she become a good leader, or does she become the bully who bullies, you know, or the one who was bullied and put down for so long? Now she's got some of that success. What does she do with it?
Hank is my favorite character in Barry because, you know, he is a criminal, you know, he is a criminal, but like Barry, he's looking for a second chance, you know. Barry's trying to escape from his past, like Hank, you know, he doesn't want to go back to Chechnya, you know. So Barry and Hank are very similar, but what do you think is the main difference between these two characters?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. Well, I think that, you know, it's probably, I think the biggest difference is Hank really does have kind of this childlike innocence to him, right? And he does kind of make these decisions, horrible decisions at times, or just hatches these plans which are just really not smart, but he does so because he really genuinely thinks that they're going to work. And so I think, and Barry is so concise and so deliberate, and he always has all of his bases covered, whereas Hank is so just like, yeah, this will work. And I think, you know, when the two of them meet, it's just hilarious. One of my favorite things is watching Bill's expressions as Barry, just watching Hank be like, oh my God, like, what are you talking about?
We've both done terrible things in our lives, but everybody deserves.
There are no more acting lessons in this new season, and this is very important for Sally, for Barry, and for Jean, because, you know, for example, in a certain way, the other actors' innocence helped Barry to feel safe in this world. You know, Sally knew she was the best actress in the class and she can control every single detail. And for Jean, it was the place where he felt relevant, you know? So it was crucial for him. And I would like to know, what do you think about that? There are no more acting lessons. I felt sad, you know, about that.
Well, first of all, I miss those actors because every one of those actors were home run hitters. And, you know, they came to the set. We got to hug, not very tightly because of COVID. But what you said is so true. You have to give yourself over to the adventure of finding where Gene fits in the new world and keep him the same, make him different, and allow him to grow. And you're not always on sure footing, but you have, the writing is first. The writing is first in every project, but you have Alec and Bill as the leaders. And so you just, if we're going across the country in covered wagons, I put my wagon directly behind theirs.
I think that Fuchs is funny because he doesn't realize that he's a bad person. He
has no idea. No, he doesn't think he's a bad person. He's trying to help, and no one will let him help. And the poor thing, and a wonderful thing to play as an actor. It's so fun to do.
Yeah, he has been a bad uncle or a bad father, because I think he's more like this broken father figure for Barry. So I would like to ask you, do you think that Fuchs, when they will realize what he was doing, or maybe he will take, the responsibility for everything that has happened?
Never. I don't think that will ever happen. I don't think he has the emotional maturity to do it. He's going to keep thinking every minute, how can I get Barry to do what I want? And then he can't go beyond it. I don't think he's emotionally able to do it, and that will end up destroying him and or Barry or both. But I don't think Fuchs has the mental capacity to go beyond what he is.
But I was hoping, that the answer was...
I was hoping too, but I don't think so.
Yet, I ask to be forgiven. Knowing the life...
Barry, this season actually looks like a nightmare, how the way you shoot certain scenes. For example, the end of the first episode is scary, that take like with their faces, and how you direct that, or when Barry is in this parking lot and he's going to take the bomb, like the camera, it's great. So it's surreal, and I think that makes the audience feels like they are watching something that is not real,
that was the kind of idea. And some of that just kind of happens, without giving too much away. I mean, some of that just kind of happens by happenstance, where you get to a place and the end of episode 1, the clouds and stuff just look that way. That's however we got there, and that's how it looked, and it gave it this kind of different feel, and so it was like, oh, well, let's shoot it to accentuate that, but yeah, I mean, there have been people who asked me, is the ending of episode 1 real or not, or is that a dream, or what happens, and you should just keep watching, but I do think it is kind of, this kind of, his anxiety and everything is up so much, this season, and just he wasn't prepared for any of this stuff to happen. So it's just this funny thing that Alec Bergen, I like to say, is like, he started just one idea to do this, and then it just spun out of control. Like him just wanting to become an actor and getting to know himself has now ended up here. A lot of people have lost their lives because this guy wanted to become an actor. So.
From the beginning, personally, I was thinking like, how do they don't realize that Barry is at the center of every tragic event, like Ryan's death, Moss disappearance, and etc., etc., But now Gene, for the first time, and I think it's like the only character, realizes that, So what do you think Gene hadn't noticed the violence that Barry carries with him? Why?
Because I'll tell you why. I'll tell you exactly the answer. Gene only can see himself. It's like some people that we have seen in our politics here in America. Their entire brain is made up of mirrors facing themselves.
So thank you very much for your time, Henry, and thank you very much for this character and this show.
I believe that you can be the version of yourself that you want to be.
I need a purpose. Forgiveness is something that has to be earned. It's like that line in Shawshank Redemption. Get rich or die trying.